Okay, welcome to the Daily Items debate between the three judicial candidates for Northumberland County. First, we're going to start with Attorney Frank Garrigan. If you could tell us about yourself and why you decided to run for office.
Sure. My name is Frank Garrigan. I'm from Ralph Township. My office is in Shamokin. My father opened up our office in 1972. I took it over around 2006. Dad started retiring. I grew up in Ralph Township. Went to Southern Columbia Area School District. I then went to the University of Pittsburgh, and then followed up went to the University of Pittsburgh Law School. After that, I went to Chicago Public Schools. I worked in Chicago from 2000 to about 2006 for Chicago Public Schools Inspector General's Office, investigating waste, fraud, mismanagement by school officials. Then my dad was going to retire, so I came back, started working in Shamokin. I couldn't do any criminal law at that time, criminal defense work, because my dad's partner was Ann Targonski, and she was the district attorney at the time. So then I continued doing a lot of business law, a lot of real estate, a lot of estates. Then 14 years ago, I became the county solicitor. Also became the solicitor for the Northumberland County Votech School and the Agency on Aging around that same time. Love doing the Agency on Aging work. Makes me feel good. I go out, and if an older person is in danger, we get emergency orders to get them off the street and get them hopefully into the hospital. A lot of times they're incapacitated and can't check themselves into the hospital, so situations like that. Do the same thing for BHIDS, which is people with behavioral health and intellectual disabilities. Then I've been serving the commissioners as the solicitor for 14 years, so I've dealt with Republican and Democratic administrations. I answer all their legal work. I think I've stayed in the job for 14 years because I've stayed out of their politics and just stuck to giving them legal advice. And at this point, I think I have enough experience to be judge. I have a wide breadth of knowledge. I think I have the disposition where I certainly expect that I would be a fair person and not prejudge people when they come in or their cases. And I'm an extremely hard worker. I mean, I have about 13 solicitorships now, plus my private office, something like that. So I'm not afraid to do a lot of work, and I enjoy my work. So I'm hoping to move things quickly through the courthouse.
Next, we have Attorney Bill Cole. You are actually a district judge out in Mount Carmel right now, so you are familiar with the court system. So tell us why, a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run.
Thank you, Francis. I'm, as he said, Bill Cole, and I have been a practicing attorney here in Northumberland County for 38 years. I originally went to Penn State University, the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, and was a graduate of Mount Carmel Area High School. After getting out of law school, came back to the area, and shortly thereafter became an assistant district attorney, prosecutor in the Northumberland County District Attorney's Office, where I was for over 30 years. In addition to that, I also maintained a civil practice and held numerous solicitorships, boroughs, authorities, things like that. The Borough of Coltmont, Borough of Mount Carmel, the Mount Carmel Municipal Authority, Coltmont Marion Heights Municipal Authority. I was the solicitor for the Mount Carmel Zoning Board for a number of years. I was the Human Services Solicitor for Northumberland County. And while that was all going on, of course, as I said, I was in the district attorney's office, at the DA's office. There had a wide breadth of duties, tried numerous, I'm not sure how many, in the hundreds probably, misdemeanor and many felony cases, murder trials, was in charge of all federal appeals for the office for 25 years, federal habeas corpus, and also appeared before the Third Circuit Court of Appeals and also before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in those criminal cases. In addition to that, after that period of time, when I did retire, leave the district attorney's office, I became the district judge in the Mount Carmel office, which encompasses Mount Carmel Township, the borough of Coltmont, Ralpho Township, East and West Cameron Townships, Rush Township, and Riverside. I have been there. I'm in my 8th year as the district judge there. And again, enjoyable work. It's work where you're just seeing a wide variety of litigation, criminal litigation with arraignments, preliminary hearings, protection from abuse orders, and also search warrants and the like. Additionally, landlord-tenant law, civil suits that are filed in the office, etc. I am a resident of the borough of Coltmont, have been married for 36 years. My wife is Joan, have 2 grown sons, and a Wheaton Terrier.
And next is Attorney Ed Greco. You're also a longtime county employee. You work in the public defender's office. You're the chief public defender. So if you want to do the same thing, tell us about yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to thank the Daily Item for hosting this event. As you said, I'm currently the Northumberland County Chief Public Defender. I've been a public defender for 35 years, chief 30 plus. I do maintain a private law practice in the borough of Coltmont. I was born and raised in Coltmont. My law office is 6 blocks away from where I was born and raised. So it's a nice practice seeing the people that I grew up with, looked up to in the community, coming to me for advice. I went to Mount Carmel Area School District. I participated in numerous sports activities, went on to Bloomsburg University for my undergraduate. Also went out to University of Dayton for my law degree. I found in my experience, I felt more comfortable in a small rural college type setting. That's why I also chose University of Dayton. I'm not a city person. I feel more comfortable in a smaller learning atmosphere than in a larger atmosphere, and that seemed to do well for me. After graduating law school, I started practicing. I was actually hired while I was in law school. Came out and worked for a firm in Pottsville doing corporate work, and the firm also had an office in Philadelphia. But what I felt that I was missing doing the corporate work was the one-on-one people. I'd get a stack of documents this high and go through those throughout the day, but I missed something. I missed the connection, working with people. So after about a year and a half, I came back to the area, joined a firm with Jim Zurich in Shamokin with Zurich and Greco. I learned a great deal about the practice of law. Then I opened my own office in Coltmont. And that's around the time I became public defender. And it was a tremendous learning experience to do my first criminal trial. I still remember that individual's name. But it's an experience that just takes with you throughout my legal career. In addition to doing a number of criminal areas of practice, preliminary hearings, bail, habeas corpus hearings, appeals to whether it be the Superior or the Supreme Court. I'm also death penalty qualified in the state of Pennsylvania. That certification is obtained by having tried or sat second seat. Second seat is you're not the lead counsel in at least 12 serious felony cases, and you do your continuing legal education each year. So that has gained invaluable experience in the courtroom, having tried and been second seat for death penalty cases. I've always gained experience and confidence in my trial ability just by the nature of those cases. I do a great deal of municipal work. Currently represent Mount Carmel Area School District. I've been a solicitor there for 30 plus years, little over 30. I represent the city of Shamokin, currently the borough of Coltmont, Marion Heights Borough. I represent Coltmont Marion Heights Joint Sewer Authority, Northumberland County Tax Collection Committee. I represent Cleveland Township in Columbia County. I represent Harleton Borough in Union County and Harleton Borough Municipal Authority. Another one of my solicitorships is the CSO, the nonprofit based in Shamokin. So those solicitorships take up a great deal of my nighttime. My daytime is spent doing criminal practice as a chief public defender. I also do a great deal of civil work, doing divorce work, custody, PFA, child support cases. I was appointed by the Honorable Judge Weiss as a master to oversee divorce cases, and I think it was 11 or 12 cases. So I took pride in the fact that the court had appointed me to take those cases, and my goal was to move those cases through the system very quickly. Once I was appointed, I immediately scheduled pre-trials, phone conferences with the attorneys, said, let's move this along. So I took pride in my ability to do that. The court has recently appointed me to 2 cases, a board of view. If a municipality has taken someone's property, they're entitled to just compensation. So there's 3 members of that board, but the court recently appointed me to do that. Having dealt with so many people over the years, I feel my broad experience qualifies me to ask the citizens of this county to consider me for voting for judge.
So with that being said, the reason why all 3 of you are here is that there are 2 spots open for the seats in the Northumberland County judge. The 2 spots that are open are because one judge is retiring, and the second one is a new position that was formed here in the county to give the county the 4th judge. So with that being said, we're going to start with Mr. Garrigan. What are the biggest changes you think we need to make in the justice system?
In my opinion, the biggest issue that the county has right now, and it's the reason why we're getting a 4th judge, is because the backlog of cases in the county is rather extraordinary. It takes a very long time for, whether it be civil or criminal, to get into court and to get your case heard and then to get a decision back out. And currently we have senior judges who are coming in, who are retired, who are filling in, and they're doing the best they can to pick up the caseload. But frankly, the state saw the need, and one of the big criteria I would have for when I'm considering who I would vote for judge would be, are they somebody that is going to be a hustler? Are they somebody that's going to keep the attorney's feet to the fire to move cases along and get them through the pipeline? Because while everybody agrees that you have to have your fair chance and you have to be able to have your time in court and your say, we also need to promptly schedule hearings and get things done. And it's not just getting the hearings held, but it's also the matter of getting opinions and orders out promptly so that everybody moves forward. I can tell you from experience that my clients call me up and they will say, how long is it going to take for me to get into court on this? And I'll say, a month or 2. And then I'll say, we'll have our hearing, and then you might get an order in another month. And and they're not happy about it. And and you can't rush this process, and I know that everybody's burdened and everybody has a lot of work to do. But if you have a judge that's showing up early, leaving late, getting the work done, somebody who's a hustler, I think that would really help the process. And here, I think the county has, the citizens of the county, while there aren't a lot of big elections going on this time, there's no presidential election, there's no senatorial election, this is a big opportunity for people in the county to pick half of the judges that they're going to have for the next 10 years. And it's a rare opportunity because we have 2 seats that are open. And I would encourage as many people as can to come out and vote, regardless of who they're voting for. It's very important that they get out and vote, because these things, while most people aren't in court constantly like attorneys are, hopefully, but when you do have to get to court and you do need to get your divorce done or your custody case done, you don't want to have a 14-year-old kid and you're still fighting custody matters when they turn 18. It's crazy. And we need to move this process along much more quickly.
Say, in my opinion, there are many areas, being that the system is so vast and there is so much. We live in such a litigious society. However, one of the areas that I would think is a significant area, at least in my view, is in this country there has been a movement to basically sort of change the bail rules. And I'm in the criminal arena here now. And what that movement, I'm sure a lot of the people that will watch this are familiar with it, is due to the overcrowding of prisons, due to the tremendous cost to have people in prisons, there has been a movement to move away from cash bail, to move further in the direction of bails. And I believe there are a couple of states where they don't allow cash bail, to move more to the area to get people out of the system. It is, as I said, very expensive. It is a very big burden to the taxpayers. Here in Northumberland County, I'm going to say it's about $110 a day probably to house people and things like that. What I would hope is that there would be movement, how can I say, inside that push to also look at the necessity of maintaining a bail system that speaks to the tenets of bail. In other words, first of all, protection of the community. I think that can be lost in trying to, and certainly the economics are very important. It's a very expensive endeavor and very important. But in addition to that, with the protection of the community, you then have the issue with bail of, if it's moving toward the area where where there is going to be no cash bail, it can create even more inefficiency within the court system, because when you then have to trust in all cases that people will necessarily show up for the further court proceedings. And that can cause unnecessary delays, unnecessary backlogs in cases, and it can really back up the system. So with all of that said, that is just one area. There are many, and I won't go through all other areas, but where it's my opinion that needs to be tempered. That's a delicate balance, and in many things, as in the bail situation, when it moves too far in one direction, I think it can really throw the entire system off. Thank you.
Thank you. Being part of the court system, it's obvious that we needed a fourth judge just because of the backlog. Blaming COVID only goes so far, but COVID didn't do our county any favors. Everybody was so afraid of it, it was a learning process. But if I looked at the statistics from 2023, the 24 statistics aren't published yet, but in 2023, the county had roughly 2,000 cases moving through the system. On the civil side, they had close to another 2,000 cases. On the civil side, most of those were, divorce, custody, child support cases that are being filed. The criminal side, it's a matter of trying to make all the parts move together. The county has this criminal justice advisory board, and as the chief public defender, I'm on that board. Usually quarterly, the players, if you will, get together. The judges are there, public defender's office, the sheriff, the jail, and it allows us to ask to put items on the agenda. And if we have a problem to say, well, transportation of an inmate is a problem, we have the ability right there to talk to the sheriff. If there's a concern with defense counsel, if an issue comes up, I'll advocate one way or the other to try to help the system. It's a great way to help move the criminal justice system forward because we're all in the same room. We could all talk out loud, but there's still delays. Just 2 days ago, I sat down with the court administrator. They had tried a system where they would bring people in for arraignment and they could potentially plead guilty on that day. And I made some suggestions to the court administrator. We used to do something where at the preliminary hearing, which is the first stage, let's have a date certain for an individual that may want to plead guilty. You have their attention, they're present. Unfortunately, for some of my clients in the public defender's office, they may fill out an application with an address and next week they move on or they lose their housing. So we're always trying to catch up to them. But if we set a guilty plea date for those individuals that want to enter a plea, we're fast tracking it. You have their attention. They sign the paperwork that says, I'm going to appear on May 1st. At least we could say to the court, well, John Smith signed this, he should be here. The court has an option of issuing a bench warrant. While that's not ideal, the way it's been going, they don't show up, or I have to request a guilty plea date. I have to mail it to them. They don't get it. I ask for a continuance, or the court, is not going to issue a bench warrant because they didn't get service. So we try again. So several months go by, and it's no fault of any one individual or judge. It just delays the process. So I think having these individuals get a guilty plea date, if that's what they want to do, we're not forcing them, but it moves the process quicker. We're not trying to chase them down and figure out where they are. That's one facet. So I believe my experience in the criminal justice system right now gives me a leg up to try to make these suggestions, and hopefully the president judge and the district attorney and all the players, take those suggestions to heart. As far as the civil cases, certainly with all the divorce cases, et cetera, that are being filed, I think having more masters appointed, I think there's one master right now, but I think if the funds permit, appointing more masters to move these cases forward quicker, I think would help get those through the system. Our court has done a great job with some diversionary programs, veterans court, treatment court, mental health court. I think those diversion programs are an off-ramp from clogging up the system. And I think those are essential, and I'd like to continue that. I also brought to the court administrator's attention a potential blight court or property court. Blight is a problem throughout the lower end of our county, and we're trying to develop a system where maybe these cases can be brought before the court and give an off-ramp that they're not in our criminal justice system and get these properties cleaned up rather than prosecute those. So again, I think our county does a good job. I think the additional of a fourth judge will help the backlog, but being part of the system as I've been for most of my legal career, I think it certainly gives me a leg up in making suggestions and saying, this, I've experienced this has worked, I've experienced that, I don't think that's worked.
Second question here we have is, how will you balance being an independent judge and elected official? So obviously you see during these times in the news that there's all these appointed judges and Democrats and Republicans and the whole nine yards. But in this position, especially in a small area like ours, you are elected, but you also have to look out for the entire county. So how will you balance doing that?
Okay, thank you. Regarding that, first of all, I would say that, of course, the Court of Common Pleas is an elected position, and it is a unique political position. There are very few in the Commonwealth where you are allowed to run on both tickets, Democrat and Republican. And I think that speaks to the fact that you are a judge for all the people. And what I mean by that is paramount in being a judge for all the people, you must put above the politics, the parties, the affiliations, all of those things, and everyone that comes before the court must be treated impartially, fairly, and equally, regardless of political association, non-association. And I think that is a situation where the judge must, for all intents and purposes, divorce themselves from those things and look solely at each case, case by case, the facts of each case, and of course the rule of law that applies to each case, and not allow any sort of biases, any sort of extraneous matter come into the case for the judge to even consider regarding that. Certainly, as was stated, there can be highly charged emotions in the political arena for various issues that are going on. But when it comes to going before the court in a court of law, I would submit that the court must separate those out. The court must look at the actual controversy that is before the court, not, as I said, the extraneous matter that is there. And I think that can be done. That can be done whether the litigants are from the northern, southern, whatever end of the county in Northumberland County. And the court just must do that in every single case, and I will do that in every single case, as I have been doing for the last 8 years as a district judge. Thank you.
It's an interesting question. As a judicial candidate and my years of experience, I've never ever heard it's Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus John Doe defendant, Democrat or Republican or independent. Or plaintiff, John Doe, plaintiff, Republican versus Joe Smith, Democrat. Politics has absolutely nothing to do or plays no role in a courtroom. We as candidates are able to cross-file both on the Republican and Democrat ticket. It's a two-party system. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast that you have to pick one or the other, be on one or the other party to run, but you're able to cross-file, because the system recognizes that politics should play no role in being a judge or overseeing cases. I certainly believe that politics should not play any role. It's supposed to be separate. I believe in the three separations of powers. That's the foundation of our country. And I don't believe that it really plays a part in it. You see the national news, you see what's going on, but in Northumberland County, the judges look at the facts of the case, of each case, look at the law that's applicable to that case. It's no one-size-fits-all type solution for many of these cases, but you're looking at facts and the law and applying that law, and politics absolutely does not play a role. And I would commit to the fact that I would not play politics in any way, shape, or form, as a judge in our county.
Couldn't agree more with the answers that we just got. And I would go so far as to say that I would actually encourage the legislature to make it automatic cross-filing for judicial candidates right out of the gate, because if you were on just one ticket, it would cause a problem where it would end up being a partisan matter, and you don't want to have to go to the party establishment and try to curry favor and things like that. Go and seek money from these people. I'm self-funded, and I think my fellow candidates are as well. But it's not that case everywhere, and the politics getting into an election for judge is a very bad thing. I would encourage I would say that for the most part, the other attorneys that I know in the county, frankly, I don't even know what political parties they are. nor do I care. I care about how they handle the law. One of the things that, with me is I've been the solicitor for the county for 14 years. I've dealt with Republican administrations, Democratic administrations, and I stay completely out of their politics. I don't want anything to do with it, and they know that. And I had to create a wall between myself and the various administrations to say, listen, I will do your legal work. I will give you the correct legal answer on things, but I will not participate in any political skullduggery or anything like that. And I think that that's one of the reasons that they kept me around for 14 years over all these different administrations, or at least I hope so. I think that when a person comes before you, it's not even just about their. You should obviously not take into consideration their political beliefs, but you also shouldn't take into consideration the other obvious things: their race, their creed, what part of the county they're from. All these things are completely irrelevant, and you should, to the greatest extent possible within yourself, divorce yourself from looking at the individual and just look at the facts as they're presented before you.
So you kind of answered the third one, which was going to be how do you ensure equality for all people, which all three of you pretty much answered. So the last question before we get into the closings will be, a lot of you have been in this county forever and a day and have dealt with people on a regular basis, especially Judge Cole and Attorney Greco here because of being in the courtroom situations all the time. With that being said, how can you guys help the younger generation now if they were to appear before you? I'm sure you've seen it in your courtroom where you've seen 14, 15-year-old kids that are coming through that you would need to maybe see longer on down the road. And the same thing with you in the county. You see as you work for the county with all of the probation departments and everything else. So you see a lot of the same people over and over again. Now in becoming in this new role, is there anything that you guys have in mind as far as your programs or anything like that you would like to see get started in order to help the younger generation so they're not starting off with stealing a candy bar leading all the way to armed robbery to murder down the road? And you see that happen a lot of times throughout a lot of the smaller counties like ours. So
Thank you. Having served as solicitor for the Mount Carmel Area School District, I've seen students change, the student body changing. The Mount Carmel Area School District and other school districts aren't the same school district that I graduated from 40 years ago, or anyone else here, I'm sure. But there's greater pressure on the kids. We have AI that's affecting the kids, whether they're trying to do a paper using AI, creating AI images of students, inappropriate images. There's internet predators that are out there. I certainly believe that education is very important to make sure that these young children are prepared to face these battles. And it's not something that they're going to hear about as they're a senior in high school. It's younger and younger and younger that we have to talk about these problems that they're going to face as they get older and try to guide them. If there's somebody, an internet predator, talk to your parents, talk to your teachers. So to address those issues, because they're facing these kids more so than ever. Also, drugs are more prevalent in our communities. Education certainly is important as well. Students are coming into school under the influence of drugs. Certainly concerning because you don't know what these drugs could be laced with. So we have to, again, get our children educated at the youngest age possible, not to scare them, but it's important that they see the dangers that they're facing on a continuous basis. Certainly within the judicial system, I think bringing my experience as a school solicitor would help. Again, if I needed to go out into the communities and talk to the children, I've done that on numerous occasions at our school. if need be, just to address the kids, talk to them. So I think that's helpful as well. But I think our juvenile probation does a good job at trying to not prosecute the candy bar type theft. But we also have to take it seriously because, as you said, that candy bar theft, if not addressed, is going to turn into a soda bottle, or bottle of soda. And where else does it lead? Or the drugs. They talk about marijuana as a gateway drug. We have to educate our children. These children are experimenting. They may experiment with marijuana. They're going to have further exposure to these drugs, and some of these drugs are deadly. So I think we need to continue the progress that we've made in our juvenile system. I know we have like a junior or an ARD for first-time offenders at the district judge level, and I think continuing to utilize that so they're not becoming in an institution for these harder crimes. You don't want to get a kids for cash type situation, but they learn a lesson. Community service is important to them. So again, I believe my background and experience dealing with our youth as a school solicitor in my office doing juvenile cases, again, would also make me an asset to addressing these needs in our county.
Thank you. In regards to that, I would say that one of the critical points in that area is certainly early intervention. And with the question being regarding young people, people that are teenagers, people that may even be a little bit younger than that, that becomes extra critical, because it's my belief that it is critical at that stage of life to set a person on the right path. They have not developed yet the negative behaviors, the attitudes, and coupled with those behaviors that bring them into the criminal justice system. There is time, there is a gap there at that point to be able to slow that process down and turn to an educational or rehabilitative process for a younger person, where as that moves on, you're certainly moving away to a certain degree from rehabilitation. In the criminal law, you're moving to punishment and deterrence rather than that. To do that, in my district court, I have two programs which I think are very good. The one is the Youthful Offenders Program, and that is a program where it's used. We use it a lot with underage drinking. There's summaries. There are cases that a person will get, a young person, and they must be a first-time offender to even qualify for the program. And what happens is they are then go to a class or classes that are run by Northumberland County to go through the ills and all of the pitfalls that occur by getting involved in that at that early age. And of course, I think that's critical, because the hope is that it will spark that light. It will start that core journey that needs to happen for the person to begin to say, I need to change this. I need to change this. The other program, and I'm hopeful if I would be elected to the Court of Common Pleas to bring derivations of these programs to the county level, is, and there's an adult program, of course, that we've seen in the news, community service work program. I also have one of those for younger offenders at my court, and I should say, really good part of that is if the young person can complete it, the fees, fines, and costs will go away, and it is benefiting the community. It is benefiting the school district, the fire department, things like that, where they can do that community service work and see that that is rewarded by wiping out those fees, fines, and costs, and that it is hopeful that that will show these young people that that is the path that we want to put you on. I talk to them every time I have a case such as that, and explain that this person sitting there, they may be in 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever. And I always say, you probably are thinking that what is the big rigmarole here? I'm in court, I'm with my parents, I have the judge, the police officer, and I say, it may seem like a small matter to you now, but it will become a very big matter if, in fact, it goes down the wrong path and you proceed into the adult criminal justice system. And unfortunately, that's something I saw in my career forever. In starting in the DA's office in the late 1980s and being there for so long, and also as a district judge over those 38 years, the nexus of when people get on the wrong track and they just continue, and it is just like a snowball effect. We need to stop that snowball in its tracks, and I believe that instituting those programs at the county level can address that and get the attention of these young people to turn that path. Thank you.
I think, first of all, I'm the solicitor for the Shamokin Area School District for some time, and I've been the solicitor for the Northumberland County Career and Technology Center, the VOTEC School in Cole Township, for about 14 years, something like that. And I've had the unfortunate circumstance of having to do expulsion hearings and things like that at Shamokin. And inevitably, when you see a kid who is getting in trouble all the time, you can usually look at the parents and you see that there is a problem in the household. And generally, the problems with the kids are not coming from stable households. And I find that inevitably when these kids show up, you're hoping to catch them when they're in 5th or 4th grade and get them to, and when Attorney Cole was talking about, they don't think that it's a big deal. For example, if it had been me as a kid who was sitting in a magistrate's office with a charge and there was a cop there, I would be like, beside myself, upset about this. And that's not the way it is a lot with these guys. And they don't really have the fear of making these mistakes like I did when I was growing up, and like I'm sure the other people in this room had. So I think that we have to not only reach out to the kids, but we also have to reach out to these parents to get them to realize that they've got to get these kids on track, and it has to go back to the home too. I'm excited that my son is he's a 15-year-old and he's going to be down at the courthouse tomorrow and he's actually buying a suit because he wants to be dressed up for going into the courthouse. Then they're going to take him around to all the different offices and everything, and he wants to learn about the court system, and I think that's great. But he's and he's benefiting from having our stable life at home. But there's these kids, it makes it very difficult for them. And then when they're in school, a lot of these kids end up, for example, if they get expelled or they ended up being homeschooled, they get in so much trouble at school that they end up being homeschooled. And that's actually worse because the kid, the one bit of stability that they were having, they were seeing teachers who were responsible adults, and now they're not always seeing those people. And that's a real problem too. They almost get secluded in their houses and end up becoming having less interactions, less good things that they can participate in. And the goal with especially juveniles is you shouldn't make the punishment such that it is something that you're taking away opportunities where they can improve themselves. They can find things that goals that they want to achieve. You've got to connect with them at that level. Now, as that pertains to the court system, I think it pertains a lot to the custody situation when we're looking at the adults and grandparents who are going to be the custodians for some of these kids in these cases where their parents just aren't available or are just inappropriate caregivers. We have to really look closely at finding good, stable households, because that's where it really starts. It starts before they end up in our system. And yes, I think all these programs are great, and I hope that community service turns kids around. And I think it's the best move that you have at that point. But at that point, they're already in the system, and it would be nice because I think when we're actually seeing these kids initially with their parents in custody situations, and we see that these households are such a disaster, we have to get these kids into more stable situations before they even end up in a long-term situation with parents that are just completely inappropriate.
Okay, we're just gonna take a couple minutes to close, make your, well, I don't know if you want to call it your final argument to the voters of Northumberland County. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Cole? You didn't go first here, I don't think, did you?
Yeah,
You're
but
going- you're going
I'll
first.
go. All right.
1, 2, 3.
Where we go.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. I would just like to say that to the voters of Northumberland County that I believe I am qualified to be a judge of the Court of Common Pleas here in Northumberland County due to the fact that I would say experience counts. I have many years in the civil and criminal arena. As stated, I was a prosecutor for over 30 years. I am currently a sitting district judge in my eighth year. I held numerous solicitorships over that period of time with boroughs, authorities, the borough of Colmont for 30 years, Mount Carmel Borough, the Mount Carmel Sewer Authority, the Colmont Marion Heights Joint Sewer Authority, the Human Services Solicitor for Northumberland County, the Solicitor for the Mount Carmel Zoning Board. So I have a vast array of experience, had done many areas of civil litigation in years past, divorce, custody, all sorts of civil matters such as that. And I think I bring to the table that experience, and that is very useful in judging all cases by the Pennsylvania rules of evidence, listening to the facts, listening to what the rule of law is. And I think in doing that, I am able to treat all individuals who come before the court with respect and conduct myself in such a way that all cases are heard and there is given equal deference to all parties, to be fair and impartial to all parties, and to also, at times, I think a judge needs to have the temperament to be compassionate with people and understand their plight in various cases, although the court certainly cannot base any decisions on sympathy. I think it's important for the court to understand the inner workings of what is going on with people and what is happening in each case as they present the facts, and then taking that totality of circumstances to make a fair and just decision. And for those reasons, I believe I am well qualified and would be a very good choice for the Court of Common Pleas in Northumberland County. Thank you.
Mr. Greco, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank the Daily Item for hosting this event. I thought it was certainly worthwhile to demonstrate to the voters of our county the experience that I have as a candidate for the Court of Common Pleas. As a public defender for 35 years, I've dealt with individuals that have committed maybe a petty crime up to a significant crime, felony, up until to murder. It didn't matter the individual. I always treated my clients with the utmost respect, addressing them as sir or whatever their preferred pronoun was. But I always treated my clients with respect. I treat litigants with respect, the court with respect. I would also conduct myself on the bench with the same courtesy. But having dealt with, I would say, thousands of individuals representing them, I've had the ability to be kind. No matter what the crime was, I treated those individuals, kindly. I wanted to do the best job I could for those individuals because certainly their life and liberty depended on the job I did. I kept myself current on the law, attending continuing legal education courses, staying up to date on current cases so I could be the most effective advocate for them. I didn't want to be stale for any issues that would come addressed before the court. So I believe that part of my experience is also keeping educated on the law, the facts. Recently, the state has instituted newer sentencing guidelines. It's Edition 8. The Edition 8 is something not totally different, but considerably different than what the sentencing guidelines were. And as the sentencing guidelines apply to individuals charged with a crime, it's the judges, probation use those guidelines to get a proper sentence, and the judge's hands are constrained to a point to follow those guidelines. And because this was a new edition, I've attended 3 seminars to make sure that I'm up to date, to make sure that I'm correct, probation is correct, and if there's any issues that come about, I could address them before the court. They're new. People have made mistakes because they're so new, but that's just an example of trying to stay current, trying to be relevant, because you can't be stale in this job, and you can't be stale as a judge. You have to certainly know the law as best you can. You have to listen to the facts. You have to treat the parties fair, and you cannot prejudge a case. Although it's important that you prepare for cases. On a guilty plea day, a judge may have a stack of cases that big. Our judges take the time to review those cases, not to prejudge them, but to be familiar with them. And I think you owe that to the litigants and the parties to have a little bit of knowledge so you're not just paging through a file as the parties are presenting that. So I'll do my homework, I'll be prepared, I'll stay current with the law. I also believe my vast experience on the civil side, sitting as a master, sitting on the Board of View, in court doing divorces, custody, PFA work, and also civil cases brought before our court also gives me a leg up on my experience. I think it's important that I have a balanced approach and experience. Besides 35 years as a public defender, I have the experience as a civil litigator as well. I also have my municipal experience, my night job, so to speak. So I know what our municipal elected officials are dealing with: an increase in crime, an increase in blight, and I'm certainly aware of those issues. So collectively, I believe my experience makes me a good candidate, and I respectfully ask the voters of this county to consider me for their vote on Election Day.
One of the good things about coming from a small county, relatively small county like we do, is that the attorneys that practice in Northumberland County, generally you cannot specialize. You can't just do workers' comp. You can't just do divorce work. You have to, in order to pay the bills, you have to, if you have a small practice, see whatever comes into your office. And when somebody comes into your office, you have to learn how to handle a lot of different areas. You may not be the greatest expert in the world in any single area, but you have a wide range of knowledge if you are a hardworking attorney in this county, because you take whatever walks into your door. And that's one of the joys of being an attorney in a small town, is that it's not boring. It's always interesting with the different cases that can come before you. And one of the things that I've done is I will I've taken all kinds of cases in order to expand my base of knowledge as much as possible. I do bankruptcy cases. I'll do real estate cases. I'll do all kinds of litigation. I'll do eminent domain cases. If you and I'm willing to learn basically any area of the law, so that I am. And sometimes you learn it one time and it's never going to come back around again. You know, it's just a one-off thing. But it's the joy of learning the law, and I think that fact that I've tried to become sort of a Renaissance guy, knowing a lot of different areas of the law, is one of the attributes that I have, in that I will take I've taken all kinds of cases. So if something comes before me, I am going to be prepared, in that I will at least recognize the type of case that it is and what are the things to be expected in that case. I think that Ed makes an excellent point, in that you can tell a lot about a judge by whether or not they have the slightest idea about the case that you're about to argue before them. If they seem to have no knowledge of it, it's disappointing. And I intend to be someone who, I enjoy when I did appellate work. I've been before the Supreme Court, I've been before a Commonwealth Court, I've been before the Superior Court in Pennsylvania. And I enjoy the fact that when I show up in those courts, these appellate courts, those judges know my case, and they're sitting there ready with questions to ask specifically about the law. So I do feel that I have the experience that I could step in on day one and be prepared to work right out of the gate. And I would ask first of all, I would ask everybody to show up and vote in the first place, because, as I said, it's a very important election, and choosing a judge is a very important thing. And I would say that when I look to who I would choose for a judge, I go first with are they going to be a fair person? Are they going to have a demeanor where they prejudged people? In your experience, if you know them. And that's another great thing about being from a small county, is that the people out there actually know a lot of us. You know, when we walk around, people recognize us. We are not coming from a county of 1 million people where they don't have the foggiest idea who you are. So you run into people that you've come across in the past. So first thing is, are they a fair person? Second thing is, are they a hard worker? Like, do they have the hustle mentality when it comes to showing up for work? And the third thing is, do they have the legal mindset to handle the things that come before them? And when it comes to things that they don't know necessarily, to learn the new things that they need to learn. Are they open to learning? And I would offer that I think I have those qualities, and that's the reason that I'm running for judge. And I'd appreciate it if the voters out there would consider me for one of the two positions that they're going to get to vote for. Because everyone, this election, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're going to get to vote for 2 out of the 3 of us. So I say, please do, and please choose wisely. Thank you.